Alright, everybody, get your engines fired up. It's time for Lights Out, Let's Chat.
Okay, picture this. The lights go out in Shanghai, engines screaming, the crowd is loud, and every single driver on that grid is a woman. Yeah, no, you didn't click the wrong podcast. This is real. This is happening. This is F1 Academy. And today, we are going all in. If you have never heard of this, perfect. You're exactly who this episode is for. And if you have heard of it, don't worry. We're going deeper than your group chat debates. We're talking, what is it? Why does it exist? Who to watch? And whether this can actually lead to Formula One. So yeah, buckle up. See what I did there? I get one racing pun per episode. That's the new rule. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lights Out, Let's Chat. Let's dive into it. Alright, quick question. When was the last time a woman raced in Formula One? Can anyone take a guess? Well, 1992. Yeah, that's over 30 years ago. Some of you weren't even born yet. Heck, I wasn't born yet. Some of your parents were still figuring out life. And Formula One was just like, yeah, this is fine. That's not fine. So, people tried to fix it. Formula Women, W Series, which was actually really solid, but W Series shut down in 2022 due to funding. And that's important because when something fails due to money, no talent, that tells you everything. So, Formula One stepped in and said, okay, we're doing this properly. And that's how F1 Academy was born. Now you're probably wondering, Michaela, who's running F1 Academy? Well, none other than Susie Wolf is running it. And she's not just some principal who showed up like, hi, yes, I love cars. No, she's lived this. Started karting at 8, climbed through racing, became a development driver in F1, drove in an actual F1 weekend. And imagine that moment. You're the first woman in decades to do this. And your intentional monologue is probably, don't crash, don't crash. Do not crash. Meanwhile, the entire world is watching like, no pressure. This isn't just about the current drivers. It's about the pipeline. Since F1 Academy started, female participation in karting has exploded. More women are attending races. That's how change actually happens. You don't fix the top first. You fix the foundation. Okay, let's simplify this completely. Because I know some of you are like, I'm interested, but I'm also confused. Don't worry, I got your back. So, let's start with the cars. Everyone drives the same car, same engine, speed, setup. So no one can say, oh, she only won because of her car. Nope, if you win, it's you. Now, the drivers. There are 18 drivers. Their ages range between 16 and 25. Max seasons that they can do is 2. So, no one stays forever. This is basically a stepping stone, not the final destination. Their race weekend looks a little bit like this. Practice, they learn the track. Qualifying, sets the grid. Race 1, chaos. Race 2, main race. It's a little bit different than the Formula One that I have been talking about. Now, race 1 flips the top qualifiers. So if you did it, amazing. Congratulations. You now start behind people you beat. Racing really said, stay humble, queens. It's like getting an A on a test and your teacher saying, cool, now go sit in the back. Alright, let's pause. Let's do a quick F1 for beginners moment. There's a racing line. Drivers don't just turn randomly. They follow a racing line. The fastest path through a corner, wide entry, cut in, exit wide. Smooth equals fast. Mess it up, you lose time instantly. Passing another driver sounds easy. Well, it's not. You're going intensely fast, fighting someone, defending, risking everything in one move. That's why overtakes are such a big deal throughout the race. And of course, where you start matters. Like a lot. Because passing is hard. So, qualifying well has a huge advantage. So if you're wondering, why don't they just pass? Because the other drivers are basically saying no. Now that we went over some beginner stuff, let's talk about a couple of the champions from F1 Academy. Starting strong with Abby Poling. She has a different energy than most. She has won 4 races in a row. Of course, in F1, that's not just winning. That is straight up dominance. Ask Max Verstappen. And now we have Dorian Pin. She is the 2025 Formula One Academy champion. And her season was absolute chaos. 3 drivers fighting all year. Final race decides everything. One rival crashes before the race even starts. Imagine preparing all season and it ends before turn 1. I definitely would need emotional recovery time. Now, let me explain what a race start feels like. You're on the grid, helmet on, hands tight on the wheel, heart is racing. Lights come on. 1, 2, 3. And then, lights out. Everyone launches. Cars everywhere. You're going into turn 1 at insane speed. You have to brake perfectly, avoid crashes, and gain positions. All in seconds. Now, I definitely get stressed merging onto the highway. And they're doing this. Alright. Now, this segment has become a favorite next to F1 News of the Week. We are diving into Question of the Week. This question might be a little more controversial than the past ones, but it's a good one. The question is simply, is F1 Academy leveling the playing field or separating women from the main competition? Yeah, we're getting into that. Because this question sits right at the center of everything F1 Academy is trying to do. And depending on how you look at it, you can land on 2 completely different answers. So let's start with the argument against F1 Academy, because it's important to understand it. Some people say if you're good enough, you should be racing against everyone, men and women, right from the start. And on the surface, that makes total sense, because Formula One itself is not separated. There's no men's grid, women's grid. It's just the best drivers in the world. The concern is this. Are we creating a separate space instead of fixing the main one? Are we saying, here's your lane, stay over there, instead of making the main system more accessible? And I think where this argument really comes from is the idea of fairness, because in an ideal world, everyone competes together. Same rules, same opportunities, same path. But here's the problem. Motorsports is not that ideal world, because racing is not just about talent. It's about money, opportunities, seat time, exposure, and getting noticed early. And those things have not been equal. Let's be real for a second. Motorsports is one of the most expensive sports in the world. Like, insanely expensive. We're talking karting cost, travel, equipment, team fees. And that's before you even get close to Formula One. So, if you don't have the funding, the support system, the opportunities early on, you don't even get the chance to prove your talent. And historically speaking, women just haven't had the same access to those opportunities. Not because they're not talented, but because the system wasn't built with them in mind. So, it's not like there were hundreds of female drivers knocking on F1's door and getting turned away. The pipeline for these women just weren't there. And that's the key point. You can't expect equal results if the starting point isn't equal. So this is where F1 Academy comes in. And I think this is where people sometimes misunderstand it because it's not meant to replace the main ladder. It's not a separate final destination. It's a development step, a foundation, a way to build more drivers who are ready to compete higher up. Now you're probably wondering, Michaela, what is F1 Academy actually doing to help? Well, what F1 Academy is doing is giving drivers more seat time, putting them on real F1 weekends, giving them visibility, connecting them with F1 teams. And that last one is huge because getting noticed is half the battle in motorsport. So instead of saying, why aren't women in F1? Well, F1 Academy is addressing the real issue. Why aren't there enough women in the pipeline leading to F1? Think of it like this. You're not lowering the bar. You're making sure more people actually have a fair shot at reaching it. Because right now, the bar is like super high. And some people don't even get a ladder. Now, with all that said, it's not perfect. And I think it's important to be honest about that. There are still some challenges happening in F1 Academy. Most of their drivers are only getting 2 seasons to try to move up. The jump to the next level is big and it's hard to do. Funding is still a huge issue afterward. So even if you succeed in F1 Academy, there's no guarantee you'll make it all the way. And that's where some criticism is fair, because the system isn't fully complete yet. So you're probably wondering where I land on this question. And honestly, I think it's both. Right now, yes, it does separate women slightly from the main competition, but it's doing that for a reason. It's building something that didn't exist before, a real structured pathway. It's not the finish line, it's not the starting point. And long term, the goal isn't separation. The goal is to add to the main competition. More women in karting, more women in junior series, more women moving up naturally, until one day, it's just normal. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think? Is this the right approach, or should everything just be fully mixed from the start? And don't worry, you can disagree with me. I can handle it. Emotionally, I'll recover. Eventually? Let me know your thoughts. I genuinely want to hear them, because this is one of those conversations that's only going to get bigger. You can comment down below on my TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram page. Now that question of the week is over, it is time for my personal favorite segment that we do. F1 News of the Week. This is the segment all about breaking down the biggest F1 news in a way that actually makes sense. This week, we've got 3 major stories happening. Number 1, the Dutch Grand Prix is officially ending after 2026. And an American driver, Colton Herrera, is taking a big step towards Formula One. And of course, Doreen Pin has entered the F1 chat. Now, let's get into it. So first up, big news for fans in the Netherlands. The Dutch Grand Prix, which takes place at a track called Circuit Zandvoort, is going to end after the 2026 season. Now, let's clear something up right away. This race is not being canceled because it failed. It's actually the opposite. The race contract only goes until 2026, and the organizers decided not to extend it. At the same time, Formula One as a sport is changing a lot. There's only so many races you can fit into one season, usually around 24. And F1 is trying to add new countries expand into new places like the United States and Asia, keep the calendar fresh and global. So basically, some races have to rotate out to make room. Think of it like a playlist. New songs get added, some older songs get skipped, even if people still like them. Now, here's why this one hits harder than most. The Dutch Grand Prix only came back in 2021, after being gone for decades. And the reason it came back, Max Verstappen. He's one of the biggest stars in Formula One, and he's Dutch. His success created a massive demand from fans in the Netherlands. And those fans, they're on another level. They're known as the Orange Army. Tens of thousands of fans, all dressed in bright orange, completely taking over the track. They sing, they chant, they celebrate every lap. It's honestly one of the loudest and most energetic atmospheres in all of F1. The track, Circuit Zandvoort, is also pretty unique. It's narrow, so overtaking is tricky. It has bank corners, like a tilted turn, kind of like NASCAR. It feels very old school compared to newer tracks. For new fans, most modern tracks are wide and smooth. Zandvoort is tight and more technical, which makes it harder for the drivers and more intense to watch. Now, here's the fun part. F1 isn't just quietly ending this race, they're going all out. The final Dutch Grand Prix in 2026 will be August 21st to 23rd. This is being turned into a massive event. We're talking a full festival atmosphere near the beach, huge crowds, live music, and a sprint race format. My newer people, you're probably wondering, what the heck is a sprint race? Well, normally on F1 weekends, it has 3 practices, qualifying, and 1 main race. A sprint weekend adds an extra short race. More racing equals more action, which equals more chaos. So, fans get even more excitement than usual. What does this mean long term? This will likely be the last Dutch Grand Prix for a while. It could come back someday. F1 sometimes rotate tracks, but nothing is confirmed. And emotionally, if Max Verstappen is still racing in 2026, this is going to be huge for Dutch fans. Like, end of an era type of moment. Okay, let's switch gears to something really important for the future of F1, especially here in the US. American driver Colton Hernandez is getting his first real shot at F1 weekend. In 2026, Colton will participate in 4 free practice sessions with the new Cadillac Formula One team. His first session will begin in Barcelona in June. For new fans, an F1 weekend starts with practice sessions, where teams test the car, try setups, let drivers get comfortable. Free Practice 1, or FP1, is the first of those sessions. Teams often use FP1 to test younger or new drivers. So, even though Colton isn't racing yet, this is a big deal. Here is why this matters so much. Starting off with, it's a path to a full-time F1 seat. This is basically an audition. If Colton performs well, he could earn a full-time F1 seat in 2027. That's how many drivers break into the sport. Of course, this is a huge American push. Formula One is growing fast in the United States. Right now, there are already 3 races in Miami, Florida, Austin, Texas, and Las Vegas, Nevada. And now Cadillac is entering F1, which is massive. They're one of the biggest American car brands, so naturally they want American fans, American identity, and ideally an American driver. That's where Colton comes in. You're probably wondering, who is Colton? Quick background check. He is one of the top racing talents, former IndyCar race winner. He's young, fast, and already proven in other series. Basically, he's the perfect candidate to represent the US in F1. Cadillac's strategy, they're trying not to rush things. Their likely plan is to use experienced drivers at first. Names like Perez and Bottas have been mentioned in general discussions. Development Colton in the background. His role right now, learn how F1 cars work, help with development, gain experience during race weekends. So it's a mix of experience in the short term. We might be looking at young American talent for the future. So the big picture here. This is bigger than just one driver. It shows F1 is becoming more global, the US is becoming a major focus, new teams like Cadillac are thinking long term, and if Colton makes it to a full-time seat, he could become one of the most important figures of F1's growth in America. Alright, before we wrap this episode up, we gotta talk about something that just happened this week, because this is huge, and it connects directly to everything we've been talking about with F1 Academy. Doreen Pin just drove an F1 car. Yeah, not a simulator, not a demo run, a real F1 car. So here's what happened. Doreen Pin, your 2025 F1 Academy champion, just completed her first ever Formula One test with Mercedes at Silverstone. And she didn't just go out for a couple of laps. She completed 76 laps in one day. That's over 200 kilometers, which for us Americans, that's roughly 125 miles. Which, by the way, is more driving than I think I do in like a week. Now, quick clarification for newer fans. She didn't drive the current 2026 Mercedes car. Instead, she drove the Mercedes W12, a car from 2021. And that's actually normal. F1 has rules called testing of previous cars. Teams use older cars for testing because it's safer for development, it's more cost control, and they don't want to give away secrets from current cars. But let's be clear, just because it's not the newest car does not mean it's slow. This is still a Formula One car that we're talking about. It's still intensely fast, extremely complex, and way more powerful than anything in junior racing. So when we say she tested an F1 car, she tested an F1 car. Now here's why this matters so much. She's become the first woman ever to drive a Mercedes Formula One car. That alone, history. And beyond that, she's now one of the very few women in 2020 to even get this kind of opportunity. And this isn't random. This didn't just happen because someone said, "Yeah, sure. Let's give it a try." She earned this. Let's walk through it real quickly. She started in endurance racing, joined the Mercedes Junior program, competed in F1 Academy, won the 2025 championship, did simulation work, and now she's testing an F1 car. That is exactly the pipeline we've been talking about. This is the system working. After the test, Pin described it as unreal and said the car felt bigger, faster, more powerful than anything she had driven before. Which, yeah, that checks out. Now here's the most important part. This is not just a cool moment. This is a step. Because in Formula One, the ladder looks like this. Test days, practice sessions, reverse role, full-time seat. So, what does this open up for her? If she keeps performing, more test opportunities, potential free practice sessions during race weekends, and eventually a shot at a real F1 seat. And this is why F1 Academy matters. Because it's not just about winning races, it's about getting opportunities like this. Real seats, real testing, real progress. So when people ask, is F1 Academy actually working? This right here is your answer. And honestly, we might be watching the early steps of someone who could one day line up on an actual F1 grid. Alright, let's wrap up this episode, because if this is where things are heading, the future of this sport just got even more interesting. So yeah, 3 huge stories this week. The Dutch Grand Prix is heading toward an emotional farewell, and Colton is taking his first real step into F1, plus Doreen Pin becoming the first woman to test a Mercedes F1 car. Okay, everyone, that is the episode. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of Lights Out, Let's Chat. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, so that way you don't miss on what's coming next. Until next time, keep the engines running.
From Lights Out to the Checkered Flag, this has been Lights Out, Let's Chat podcast. We'll see you next time.